the Zwillik Concerto. This is a piece where the composer said she wanted to bring out that singing long line quality that flutes can do, which is distinctively flute-like, right?
Yeah.
So you'll hear sometimes long notes going to other long notes. It's almost like there's a theme stretched out in a sense. But it doesn't start that way, does it?
No, it starts the flute sort of sneaks into the orchestral texture. Make sure I've got this thing set up right. Can't tell you how many times I'll practice and be like, why can't I play the flute today? Oh, I put it a quarter of an inch, in the This is the very first thing you hear from the flute.
From the flute.
Yeah, from the flute, exactly. Just sort of sneaking in under this beautiful string texture that's been laid out.
Oh, the very beginning in the orchestra is amazing. It sounds like there's an Egyptian ritual starting. It sounds, I'm serious, it sounds with cymbals and harp and strings. It's like, whoa, it's really cool. Yeah. And then we get to the Allegro section, and the music is really quite exciting.
Yes, this is where it's so interesting that she brings the flute in what I think of as our basement, the bottom of the range, because I spend 70% of this concerto at the top, and so here's some of that. So I'm gonna try to get as far away from you as I can, because this is not something you want to hear right up close. But.
Wow. Yes. And it's that hard for the orchestra too. There's a creative, unusual meter involved too. This is just brilliant music. And we kind of went over kind of quickly over the introduction, but the introduction, I think, as we've talked about, sort of pays homage to what must be one of her favorite composers, Shostakovich. It sounds like Shostakovich if you're familiar with that wonderful Soviet composer. But this sounds, and again, it's all Zwillik. It is. It really is. Maybe you could play a little bit of where I was going to say the section where you're kind of augmented. Yeah. So then she, one of the things she does in this piece is you don't get a lot of, until the last movement, you don't get a lot of fast notes without her interjecting more of these long notes, because that really was her interest in writing this piece. She's very direct about that in the program notes. So, after some of that fast stuff you just heard, you get this. Back in skip land. Yeah, that's the part where I imagine it like stretching this, kind of musical motifs and really trying to kind of like almost be like a siren sound. Not a siren, but like, the ones who
singing from the rocks,
and attracting the sailors. There's something like luring about this like intensity of this flute playing these long lines. Yes. There are 3 movements. The first movement is about half the length. The whole concerto is not very long. The second movement, also gorgeous. There are some incredible percussion effects here. Lots of different cymbals, these bells that are singing and things like that. And I mean, we're running out of time, and I apologize. Would you want to play a little bit of either the second or the third movement?
Let's do a little bit of the third.
Yeah. The last movement is so exciting.
Yes. Let's see. Where's a good passage? I think this is good.
just to wrap up, and I'm sorry that we're running out of time, but what are some of the things that really excited you about this particular piece, and what are some of the maybe the biggest challenges?
This is a piece with a heart. I think it ties in really well to Tracy's piece because it's about the death of Zwick's mother. And the grief is really, really palpable in this piece. And so it's extremely expressive. It kind of avoids a lot of the, hyper-virtuosic bird-like writing of a lot of things for flute. We just get typecast as the bird all the time. And this piece doesn't do that. And so that's one of the things that drew me to it. And actually that is one of the real challenges is, these incredibly long notes that she writes and long, passages that are, meant to be played as close to in one breath as possible. She does recognize that there are things she's writing that are not possible to play in one breath. And so she writes it in a way that makes clear that she knows that, but that's the effect she wants. And that's really, that and the fact that I spend so much of the concerto at the top of the instrument, it's just more physically taxing to play up there. So those are the real challenges of this piece. It's been a real joy to dig into it with you and our colleagues.
Oh yeah, well, and you play it brilliantly. I mean, you exceeded expectations based on rehearsal last night, and you are in for a real treat with this piece and with Tim. And it's so wonderful to get to know you better now, because in future concerts we'll see you sitting principal flute and know more about you and your personality and your background.
Come say hi, or
yeah,
please
so
say hello.
You're a wonderful part of the Dubuque Symphony. Thank you so much, Tim. Proud of you.